I'm Todd Crawford,
I'm Eric Zavinski.
and we are too cool for the comic shop.
We're talking about this week, Todd.
We're talking about Dark Knight, aren't we?
So we're going to talk about an obviously vastly superior superhero trilogy. Actually, some people may agree with that. We're going to be talking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy of the thousands.
It's funny because I honestly did think we were talking about Dark Knight until today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
We
totally got
literally.
confused with that. And I was stressed because I haven't seen Batman Begins in like 6 years.
This is how
So,
much research and preparation that Todd puts into the podcast. We are not cutting this out. Because him and I had a discussion, be like, literally messaged you yesterday. I was like, hey, you good for Sam Raimi Spider-Man talk tomorrow? And you were like, hell yeah.
oh,
And
that's right. That was yesterday
and
then.
here he is. See, now you're spoiling one of the future topics, though. God damn it, Todd.
That's true, but it's the only way to keep people watching because now people are gonna be excited. And God, I
Cue
can't
them
wait.
in on all the interesting topics that they will have in store. No, I figured we got to build ourselves up. We got to talk about the king of cringe, king of just pure, innocent superhero movie nostalgia. That's the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy for all of its perfections and imperfections.
Yeah, so to start off with the first movie, do you have a memory of the first time you saw this movie or a personal history with this one?
I actually do. I feel like I have vague childhood memories of watching it when I was 6 years old, but I'm pretty sure I watched it on VHS the year it came out.
Yeah, I remember it was one of the first movies that I saw in theaters. My dad took me to see it. He was a Spider-Man fan, and I really wasn't into superheroes at all. I just didn't have any interest. And so I went and saw it, and at the end he asked, "Did you like that movie?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't really like superheroes." And
Really?
yeah,
That's awesome.
and I can get into like how that changed for me as I got older. Now it's one of my favorite movies, but it really made no impact on me as a kid at all. All my friends liked it. I played the video game some; those were kind of fun, but it just was not my thing back then.
That's funny. I definitely also have memories of the video game. I played Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 video games on the Nintendo GameCube quite a bit.
Do you remember all the cheat codes for that?
Yeah, that's back in the day when cheat codes were like thing. They were
Yeah,
mostly just dumb ways you could make your character look stupid.
yeah, Green Spyro.
Or big-headed Spider-Man. You know
Oh,
what? That game left such an impact on me too. Had that remember his name, but that wisecracking narrator in that like prologue when he was like teaching you how to play the game,
I
shitting on
forgot about
everything that you
that.
do.
I think Stan
Yeah.
Lee did the narration for one of them, but I think Bruce Campbell might have done that one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the name that I had on the tip of my tongue. So yeah, just anyway, Spider-Man, a weird, beautiful film, and I hold the first two in high regard, and then I think the third one is a beautiful nightmare that is still rewatchable somehow, and somehow it's a very coherent trilogy, in my opinion. It's also I love laughing at them as well. I have so many memories, especially in the past several years, with my brother just putting them on and laughing with them or laughing at them.
It's just insane how entertaining these movies are. I remember I bought the first one. I happened to see it in Walmart. I think because there's a new one coming out or something like that, right when I first moved to Pittsburgh. And I bought it. I got some cheap $5 coffee. I took it home and I watched it that night. And I was pretty tired. I was working overnights at the time. And it was just like transfixed on the movie. It felt like it was like 20 minutes, like one of those old like Spider-Man cartoons I played when I was a kid. It just flew by. And I was thinking about this today. It's such a mastery of tone that Sam Raimi has and exhibits in these films.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. It is just a weird, it's very specific type of camp that we haven't seen in the industry in over a decade, in my opinion. And just, I don't know if we ever will again. It's just a weird thing, where I attribute the tone of these movies, the time period in which they came out. So like my brain, like I can't mentally disassociate the time period in which they came out and like the tone that they have, if that makes any sense.
Definitely. And it draws a lot from Golden Age and Silver Age Spider-Man, of course, but it's all so personal to Sam Raimi's brand of humor and his specific kind of cheesy, over-the-top filmmaking.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, because if you watch all three of them together, I know that a lot of people, the third film, a lot of flack, and in a lot of ways it deserves it. It's definitely the worst of the three. But at the same time, if you like watch them all, there are so many moments in all three movies where you're like, and that's stupid. That is just Sam Raimi dumb humor right there. And it's in all three movies very prevalently. I still feel they're just all connected in that way.
They totally are, and I personally, I love that stuff. I grew up on Sam Raimi movies. I'd say even to this day, Evil Dead is one of my biggest inspirations. Just, uh, I don't know, I don't want to call myself an artist, but creatively speaking, it's one of my biggest influences. And I think that's what really got me into them. The older I got, was watching them as a fan of the director, as much as I am a fan of the character, and Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I really have gone back, and I adore those old comics and everything.
Yeah.
But
So you and I come from pretty different camps as far as that's concerned because I have only seen Spider-Man trilogy in terms of the Sam Raimi movies. I haven't seen any of his other movies ever. Um, yeah, so I kind of come from more of a Spider-Man only background. And yeah, I know he's made some other films, but I really don't have much knowledge about him as a director otherwise.
yeah, I mean, I won't get into those too much here, but of course, the Evil Dead trilogy is one of the most consistent trilogies of all time. Three very different films that are equally as great as each other. And then I think Drag Me to Hell, it's kind of a throwback to those, but with a bigger budget, is also just a really fun time.
You know what? I actually feel like I saw Drag Me to Hell, but only like the last 20 minutes of it in a hotel room once.
That'd be the perfect place to watch a movie like that. That sounds like a good time.
It left an impression on me because I just remember the ending of the movie, which is frankly pretty disturbing. And just being like, oh God, feel so morbidly disturbed now.
So, yeah, the overall world of these films is extremely campy and humorous. Once again, it's very Marvel in the sense that people talk about the MCU now, and I don't really feel a connection to the comics with them. They do their own thing, and that's fine. But to me, the Spider-Man movies feel lifted off the page.
And no, it totally feels like that. I think a lot of it often comes down to the setting. I mean, Sam Raimi version of New York feels like a complete and total comic book New York. Whereas in a lot of MCU films or even X-Men films, I feel like New York is just a backdrop and it's not like a character. In the Sam Raimi movies, for all of its quirky citizens that need saving or talking shit on Spider-Man like constantly, that really gives the setting its own character that I feel has been sorely lacking in a lot of other superhero movies.
Exactly, and the thing that I was just thinking about today and just marveling over was how he managed to create this world, and it's so goofy and cartoonish, but it feels so intimate with the characters. And when those character beats need to happen, they completely work on an emotional level. And I think that the first movie is the strongest with conveying an emotional narrative because I think that that's Peter Parker's strongest arc is this first movie. And I think everything with him becoming Spider-Man is basically perfect.
Yeah, I agree with that because a lot of people have two as their favorite. Then on a rewatch, I didn't just rewatch them, but when I was rewatching them with my brother like a year or a year and a half ago, um, you had a clear vision and a clear opinion on all three in a row, and I was just like, you know what, two is really good, but I feel like you know plot and the narrative, especially with Peter, is more compelling in the first movie. And I feel like the villains are both equally good in 1 and 2, so it's kind of just a toss-up, but I feel like 1 is actually the best as well.
I completely agree in a story sense. I will say, I think there's a trade-off with 1 and 2 where the first one, all the Parker stuff's great, the coming of age stuff, all that. However, and I like Willem Dafoe in the role. I like what he does, it's a lot of fun. But the Power Ranger suit is so distractingly bad that it does knock the movie down for me, especially you've seen the test footage with the makeup, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have it any other way. There's something about that beautiful Power Ranger suit. I like it because it is stupid, and it's just something, I don't know, the duality of him saying menacing lines while walking around in that suit always just makes me laugh. It never ceases to entertain me. So I wouldn't change it. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I would squash you like a bug right now.
What's the one, Mary Jane and I, we're gonna have a hell of a time.
There are so many damn good
It's
lines in
just
this
so over the
movie.
top. He's just so like deliciously evil.
It's so perfect. I mean, again, Spider-Man trilogy is not my favorite superhero trilogy. It's not doesn't crack like the top 3 superhero movies for me or anything. They're good movies, but my God, they're endlessly rewatchable because of lines and moments like that.
There's something about that era of filmmaking, and it might just be that we grew up with it, so it's just more ingrained in the culture of our youth. But like you think
Yeah,
about this or the prequel trilogy, they're also meme worthy.
really are.
And
Yeah, they all came out around the same time. I believe Attack of the Clones came out the same year as Spider-Man 1 as well.
then you got the Shrek movies. I mean, it makes me wonder, like, is it because
Yeah,
they
the early
shaped
2000s were a very formative time for us.
Smash Mouth?
I'll mention that. I'll mention that.
Well, how
Oh my
can I?
God, isn't it not Smash Mouth? But okay, so want to test your memories of this movie, and the VHS of Spider-Man. The end of the credits had an amazing music video of Chad Kroger from Nickelback and Rosie Scott, I think his name is, being the "Need a Hero to Save Us" song. Unironically, I watched that as a kid. Now, unironically, as an adult, I still watch it. It's beautiful, man.
No, it's so great, and I love it. And I thought you were gonna quiz me. I was all proud because I was gonna actually know it. But
Oh,
my
now you need to
favorite
sing it
thing about
hard.
that, other than the nostalgia of the VHS tape, they used to play this song. I worked at a Walmart through college, and they had that song on the playlist they play at Walmart. There's like 8 songs they play over and over again all throughout the whole day. And I'd
I'm
be
so sorry.
like stocking toilet paper, and you'd hear Chad Kroger sing about being a hero, and I'd feel empowered.
They say that a hero can save, and they're just fucking rocking out on top of a skyscraper while clips of the movie you literally just watched are playing. This is just some other top tier shit, man.
Oh yeah, that's another brilliant thing about that deck was the music videos. I mean, we're not getting into this episode, but what's that one music video? Daredevil, which is an Evanescence music video basically,
Oh God,
and that
yeah,
soundtrack. It's so great.
it was a different time, dude. Different time.
So I have to say, there's one thing that this movie does, and I always say that sometimes when the first of its kind happens, it's the best of its kind as well. It kills a genre, and I think that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man did that with Spider-Man origin stories. Because so think about like The Exorcist before all those knockoffs happened. You can't do better than The Exorcist. It began and ended. Jaws. Name one shark movie that was half as good as Jaws.
It's very true. So, are you comparing it to the Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I would say both. I mean, I haven't seen all of Homecoming actually, but definitely Amazing Spider-Man. I like Amazing Spider-Man. I'm fine with that movie. But
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that in a separate podcast eventually. But Yeah, no, I would say at least the moments in The Amazing Spider-Man where they try to replicate, the Uncle Ben death and similar father motifs, they definitely fall flat compared to Raimi Spider-Man because you feel so painfully obvious that they're recreating it because they have to. It's out of obligation, so it doesn't feel organic in any way. The moments where they try to do the fatherly motifs in The Amazing Spider-Man fall flat because it's basically already been done with more heart before. So that those parts of that movie don't really feel as organic, especially on a rewatch. But thankfully, that movie has some other different things going for it. But if they would have tried to remake it with Green Goblin or something like that, then it would have fallen that completely.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's definitely talked for another episode. But I definitely think like with the stuff with like the wrestling match and the death of Uncle Ben, it's just done so immaculately despite the flaws of the trilogy. The stuff like that in the first movie is done so well and with so much care that it's like, what else are you gonna do? You just can't top it.
Oh yeah, I absolutely feel that. It's honestly feels like it came off the comic book page. Those first 30, 45 minutes. Then it's kind of like the second half of the movie is almost like we're going through a greatest hits of this slightly alternate universe comic book of the parade and the bridge and the burning building and all that stuff. Feels like it's just straight from a comic panel.
How do you feel about the organic web shooters?
You know, it brainwashed me as a kid because, as a kid, my first interaction with Spider-Man was this movie. So, as a kid growing up, I nothing of it. Then as I learned about it, the actual origins of the character, then I slowly evolved into thinking, you know what, it's pretty weird. Um, I like it says more about the character than mechanic web shooters because obviously Peter himself is a good character because of his intellect in a lot of ways, on top of his passion. So I like web shooters better, but it's the organic webbing just part of the campy weird identity of this trilogy though at the same time.
Yeah, for me it's like not ideal, but it isn't a deal breaker.
No, absolutely not a breaker.
I
But yeah, it's just kind of it's a little weird when you go back and watch it, especially like him testing it out, and you can actually see the white gooey strand coming out of his wrist when he's trying to swing for the first time. So stuff like that is kind of weird, but I forget about it as the movie goes on pretty quickly.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a thing like if we were older, like we were our age when the movie came out now, like 20 minutes of this podcast would be talking about the organic web shooters because that seems to be such a big point of contention with fans. But now there's like five other Spider-Man live action movies. It's just kind of like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the kind of podcast I would probably switch off regardless of how many Spider-Man movies there were because again, I really don't get caught up in the really small details about stuff like that because if you let yourself do that, you're not going to like any movie, especially blockbusters and fantasy and all this other crap. So
We're too cool for that.
exactly. Yeah. And see, we're just showing how accurate our name of the show is now.
That's a good segment we could do for the show from now on. We'll mention a little detail in a movie and be like, hey, you remember that? Who gives a shit about that?
Yeah. And then we'll just pretend to be outraged by a different detail in the same movie.
So, how do you like Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane?
I have multifaceted opinions on Kirsten Dunst. Again, I feel like her performances are just such an ingrained part of this trilogy. At the same time, when I actually go back and rewatch these movies, half the time when I see her on screen, I just think to myself, damn, she's a bitch.
Wow, I didn't realize
Why?
you hated women so much.
I hate women so much. No, but like she's she's a very self-centered character in majority of the time she's on screen. Really, especially when you look at it and Spider-Man 2, she's kind of insufferable, especially. Um, so it's like, dislike Kristen Dunst. I think she's a good actress, and I think she's pulling off that kind of, very spit of Mary Jane pretty well. But and just further cements me as a Gwen Stacy guy. But that's another conversation.
Oh yeah, that I mean that's exactly where I'm at too. I much prefer Gwen Stacy. I always feel like she was Peter's true love, and then she was dead, and Peter's like, all right, I'm gonna get this hot chick now.
Yeah, it's just I don't buy the mystery between Spider-Man and Mary Jane very much. I feel like they're always caught up in each other because like, oh, she's hot, she's an actress, and oh, he saved my life, blah blah blah. I don't feel like they ever actually have any real chemistry. That really shows in moments where like Peter is talking about like he's struggling, and then like there's one scene in particular where Mary Jane thinks she like projects that Peter is minimizing her problems just because Peter is talking about his problems for once. Literally all she does, I think it's Spider-Man 2 or um like talk about highway shit.
Yeah,
It's like it's a very one-sided relationship. Then Peter Parker does even that out by acting like a complete douchebag in Spider-Man 3. So really they're just a horrible couple.
yeah, pretty much. And I get the opposites attract thing and all that, and I'm fine with that. The archetype of it's fine. I like Mary
Yeah,
Jane. I just don't.
it's
I like Mary Jane. I like Peter with Gwen Stacy. With that said,
yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that because I never really thought about MJ in that way in these movies. I think because I just see these movies as just more and more shit getting piled on Peter Parker's plate, and she's just
Oh,
one of those
absolutely.
things that keeps dumping on him.
That's honestly part of the it is part of the humor for me. Seeing Peter get pushed around by life. I think it's something about Tobey Maguire that it makes me laugh that Peter gets like shit on all the time. I mean, because like the movie plays it up as humor a large percentage of the time. I love the just love the segments in Spider-Man 2, especially where like the nerd he's picking up his books. He dropped them, I guess, for some reason. You would think Spider-Man wouldn't drop his books. It's whatever. And he still gets like the backpack over his head and shit. It's just shit like that just entertains me forever.
Oh, it's my favorite stuff in the trilogy. It's kind of horrible to say, but just like seeing him have an increasingly bad day is just so
Yeah,
entertaining to me. It's like an old it's like an old slapstick comedy. It feels that way to me. Like that movie Safety Last, I think it was Harold Lloyd. It brings me back to those kind of black and white style comedies.
there's really a lot of that shit in this trilogy. I mean, even when Mary Jane and Harry Osborn are cooking omelets together, and then the blooper reel. See, my favorite blooper reels of all time are Spider-Man 2 and 3, by the way. And then the blooper reel dropped the whole egg, and Kristen Dunst says, "Oh shit," and then she's like, "Oh shit" again. They wouldn't say that in Spider-Man. It's like that just live in my heart forever, dude.
Yeah, there's just something so charming about these movies. Um,
Yeah, there really is. I think that's the perfect word to sum up my feelings on these movies. They are charming. They're not necessarily the best films, technically and all that stuff, even though they're pretty good, especially the first two. But yeah, they're charming. So, what I'm curious to know, Todd, and I don't think we've ever talked about this. How much of a disparity in quality do you think there is between Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Spider-Man 3?
oh, it's insane. So like for me, and I didn't get the history yet so much, just the first. The second one's my favorite comic book movie. It's the one that got me into all those kind of movies. I absolutely adore it. Even though I don't even think it's like I think the first one, like you said, in many objective ways is better. I just think the
Yeah.
second's so goddamn fun. It's like Toy Story for me, where it's like I think Toy Story 1 has a better plot than Toy Story 2, but the second one is just pure joy to watch every second of.
Yeah, really good knocking it out of the park sequels. They don't have to set up anything, so you can really just have fun with the characters more in a way.
And the third one, I see it as basically the studio wanted to screw Sam Raimi over. So he just went nuts. Like it was a kamikaze. he just self-destructed his own movie, and I kind of love it. But
Yeah, okay. We're pretty much on the same boat with Spider-Man 3 then.
this stuff with him dancing and all that, the fix you'll get your rent when you fix this damn door. All that
Dude, I
stuff
mean,
I adore. I love it.
I've actually cried watching that. Those moments, every time I rewatch Spider-Man 3, I actually think it's better every time.
I like to imagine you're not crying laughing. You're like there's just like a single like manly tear rolling down your cheek.
Very emo tear peeling off of the part in my hair.
With that said, as someone who really does value the character of Spider-Man and who was invested emotionally in the series and the story, yeah, I mean, of course, the third one's not what I would want. But if it had to suck, it failed in the best possible way it could have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like 80% of the time, it sucks marvelously. And, those moments are still cherished by the fandom in a beautiful way. It's kind of like Sam G, like Jar Jar Binks is in the prequels and Star Wars. Like all of that energy that people now actually seemingly unironically love, just recognize its entertainment value in a different way. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse actually referenced the emo dance. I mean, for Christ's sakes, we have reached that level of widespread self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once again, if I was waiting for the film to come out anxiously, I was a fan for years, if I was my age when it came out, I might feel differently. Probably not, though. I think I would see it opening day in theaters and just love
I
the
know I
absolute
did. It
garbage
was
of it.
it came out around I think my 11th birthday. I still wasn't old enough to know what a good movie was yet, so I thought Spider-Man 3 was good when it came out. I was still, not even a teenager yet, but then, the rewatches come in because superhero movies are usually rewatched, especially when you're a kid. I just remember slowly it dawning on me, a few years later that, oh wow, this movie's not good.
The thing is, though, and this is the defense that I always give for any movie that I love, is that if you ask me today, tomorrow, next week, any day of the week, at any point in time, if I was on the way to like, it's Mother's Day, so if I was on the way to my mother's funeral and you're like, "Hey Todd, you know watch Spider-Man 3?" I'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, I got nothing going on."
Yeah, dude, absolutely. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful, hilarious experiment. I mean, I will laugh out loud more at my 20th rewatch of Spider-Man 3 than probably most comedies in film today, I swear.
Yeah, it's totally true, and I just I can't even imagine. See, to me, like, people go to like a museum and they're looking at something by Michelangelo or whatever, and Da Vinci, and they're like, how did you come up with this? How do you do it? They're just studying it. That's kind of like if you took like just different scenes or even screenshots from Spider-Man 3, I would be at the museum looking at it, just like scratching my chin, nodding every now and then.
Yeah. It's a very amazing way. They made a bad movie, but so good. I mean, because I can think of many other superhero movies that are bad that make me laugh. Batman and Robin is up there. Um, Daredevil's mostly just bad. But there's definitely those movies that are so bad that they make me laugh. And Spider-Man 3 is at the top of that list. No question.
You know one of mine, and this might be an unpopular one for like a guilty pleasure superhero movie?
What's that?
X-Men Apocalypse. Wait, which one's the one with the purple guy? Oscar
Yeah,
Isaac.
that's Apocalypse.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the one with Thanos in it. That one is
Yeah,
like,
Die of Thanos.
yeah, like it's not like a good movie. I only watched it once in
No.
theaters, but I had fun with it. It was a fun, dumb movie.
I remember my brother and I walking out of it for the first time, and we just thought it was the most meh movie ever. But maybe rewatching it, I would think it's funny. I don't know. I remember being insanely bored by it.
I could totally see that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Days of Future Past and all that, so like it wasn't
Oh
what I
yeah,
wanted, but
Oh, absolutely. We were too. So it definitely came as a disappointment. But yeah, bringing it back to Spider-Man, I honestly think Spider-Man 3 has some good moments in it. There are some moments that, taken out of context, you know, could lie to somebody and be like, oh, yeah, this is from Spider-Man 3. It's like the natural evolution of this trilogy. And I think somebody who didn't see them would actually believe you. Scenes that come to mind are like the crane scene, even though Gwen Stacy is like completely bastardized. Like
Heck, casting
Spider-Man
though.
saving her is like definitely like a third in the trilogy kind of really good action set piece. When all Toby and Kristen are crying over Harry's dead body, it's like a beautiful trilogy capping moment that's not necessarily bad, taken out of context, but then it's just surrounded by an absolutely absurd final boss fight. Um, if you take moments out of that third movie, not completely awful.
Yeah, I mean the obvious one is the birth of Sandman, and that's what I really want to talk to you about was, and this gets in that kind of nitpicky bullshit, but this one's a little more serious than the organic web shooter. How do you feel about Sandman being involved in Uncle Ben's death?
Yeah, that's definitely one of those retcon plot moments that, depending on my day, depending on my mood, I'm like against it, or I don't care, or it's like whatever. It's a movie. It's not the comic book exactly. I feel like I'm of two minds on this. The mind that doesn't like it says to me that kind of takes away from the drama of the first movie when he's chasing the other guy and basically, ends up, inadvertently killing him because the dude trips out a window. I'm pretty sure he's in a dark enough place to pretty much kill the guy. That's part of his origin. Oh, intently. And to retcon an origin, I'm never really a fan of. But my second mind thinks that what they were able to do with it, with full circle sense of forgiveness and letting go, which is what Uncle Ben would have wanted for him. I feel like that actually hits. That's probably the most emotional moment in the third movie. When Spider-Man actually tells Sandman that he forgives him, I actually feel something. The only time I feel like a genuine pang of not humor but emotion in that movie. So I'm kind of split, but I like it, but I don't like it. If that makes sense.
No, I'm pretty much with you. Like, it's not like I see that and I'm like, wow, that's a brilliant take on this mythology. Um,
Yeah,
Generally, it's kind of a bad thing, but it's not like a once again, it's not a deal breaker. I don't give that much of a crap about it. But like in the context of the narrative of Spider-Man 3, just if that was a self-contained movie, I actually do like it. Thinking about it in the context of the trilogy, it doesn't work. It's kind of like for me, Dark Knight Rises with like Batman being retired. I'm fine with that movie, but then you think about it, and it's like, oh, that's pretty weird actually.
yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's like whole argument of this movie stand on its own versus how does it work together as a series of movies, and most trilogies can't really hit the nail on the head perfectly with balancing both of those things. It's a really hard thing to do. It doesn't really bother me that much. I don't think it's like absolute crap like some people do.
How about Venom?
Venom, on the other hand, I probably agree with the majority, is pretty crap. They shoehorn Venom himself way at the end. Um, Eddie Brock character is actually used pretty well throughout the movie. If you are trying to make Peter this edgy caricature of himself, I just feel like the narrative could have been stronger if they would have focused on Sandman. Um, Maybe don't do the new Goblin stuff at all because this movie so obviously can't handle it. In 3 minutes in, he is knocked out and has amnesia. That doesn't get rectified until like an hour and 45 minutes later. Then on top of that, Venom doesn't probably show up until the last 3 minutes. So really, the majority of the movie is like Sandman, but also not, because Spider-Man is kind of his own villain in this movie. There's a good like 45-minute chunk where he's just being emo, dealing with his own inner conflict. So again, it just gets to the point where if you have basically 4 villains in a movie, I don't think the narrative can really gel like it should have.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's never boring, and I think that's a big part of it is it's such a maximalist production that like there's always something big going on,
Oh,
and that doesn't
absolutely. There's
always
no
work in
doubt
his
about
favor.
that.
But like, so with Venom for me, I'm really on the bandwagon. Like, I'm not really a big fan of Venom. I've read the comics. They're okay, but like Venom's not like a top Spider-Man villain for me. So I'm not really like that emotionally tied to the character. I'm fine with Eddie Brock, like you said, being this rival kind of nerdy reporter that then gets this power against Spider-Man. That's not a deal breaker for me, but the fact that like the design he doesn't have the tongue and that he also just is always showing his face and it's fucking Eric from that 70s show is so
Yeah,
distracting.
it's very, very distracting. You basically see the normal Venom face like 3 times, and it like goes away instantly. And obviously, they didn't bulk him up like Venom should, which is whatever. I mean, got a shitty Venom movie, so if people want a shitty Venom movie, they have that too. I mean, I agree. Venom's kind of an overrated character. I just get a lot of humor out of the fact that Topher Grace is, um, and he's actually been in a lot of movies in the past few years. So constantly thinking of Eric Foreman, but I feel like that's part of his charm as an actor, and it's kind of bizarre, kind of weird, but it's just another thing that makes me laugh in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Like I like Topher Grace. I think he's good in those other movies. Like you said, he has like a split second cameo in Interstellar, which always cracks me up.
I
But
love him in Interstellar. It makes me laugh too.
yeah, it's literally the definition of blink and you'll miss it.
Oh, he's in Interstellar for like 10 minutes, dude.
Oh, is he really? That movie's like
Yeah,
three
I think you
hours,
need
so
to.
maybe like relatively
No, he
speaking.
definitely is like an actual character. You got to rewatch Interstellar, bro.
I guess I do. I saw that one twice in theaters.
It's funny that in your mind, though, you have you have delegated him to being a cameo and not a side character.
Yeah, literally remember the girl in that movie, Michael Caine's daughter, being like going through some papers, and then she like, she's handing papers off to people one by one, assembly line of her delegates, and then she like kisses Topher Grace because he's her husband or whatever, and then leaves her room. That's basically all I remember of him.
Your movie is your memory of Interstellar is very foggy.
So anyhow, um,
Huh.
let's talk about Spider-Man 2 and like, we gotta talk about Doc
Yeah,
Ock.
I feel like Spider-Man 2 is actually the one we haven't talked about much at all yet. But yeah, Spider-Man 2, I agree with you, is just have a lot of fun. And yeah, Doc Ock is truly, truly a comic book villain. He is channeling all the comic book villain energies. I think is why people hold him in such high regard, because there are complex or edgy villains like Joker or Thanos or whatever. If you just want a pure comic book villain off the page kind of feel, I feel like Doc Ock, Alfred Molina is his name, something like that, gives that.
I'm sure Doctor, yeah, Octavius. I think you're right,
For
Melina or something like
Molina,
that.
yeah.
Do you remember in the comics when he dated Aunt May? I think he's happened a number of times. They're always trying to hook Aunt May and Doc Ock up.
I think I vaguely remember that. My brother used to look through like Marvel Spider-Man encyclopedias and stuff, and I feel like that's a thread that we read about. I honestly didn't read a whole lot of comic books growing up. I feel like I do know that happened. A lot of things that Doc Ock does in the comics that are very weird.
When shipping goes wrong. Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, fortunately, I didn't go that direction in the movie, but I just recently I rewatched the scene, the infamous scene when the tentacles come alive, and just like the editing on it, the camera work. Particularly, there's a scene where it's so Evil Dead like, where one of the doctors grabs a chainsaw and starts hacking
Absolutely.
away at the tentacle, and then it eventually kills him. It's like it's overwhelming. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that scene was absolutely really terrifying as a kid. It's like I think I was 8 years old. Definitely saw Spider-Man 2 in the theaters. Then my brother, I think it was one of his first movies in the theaters, and he was 4 years old. Like I remember my mom having to cover his eyes because he was pretty frightened as a 4-year-old. So yeah. Then I like watch it as an adult, and I'm just like, it's funny. It's a nice homage.
Yeah, I didn't see this one in theaters. I think so I have divorced parents, and my dad's side went and saw it at a drive-in, and um, they said they saw it. And I was like, oh, how was it? And they're like, it had too much relationship stuff. It was kind of boring. And I didn't see it for years after. And I was at a
Really?
babysitter's house. I was probably like 10, 11 at this point, and they just had Spider-Man 2 on VHS, so they put it in, and that's what we watched for a bit. And I was like, this movie's awesome.
Your dad led you astray, dude.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't my dad that said that.
Oh,
It
damn
was
it.
one of my step family members. I won't name them, but only because I can't remember which one it was.
For shame. Yeah, no, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, because it definitely has, for obvious reasons, more relationship stuff. Part of which I is kind of for that hilarious Peter gets world dumped on his shoulders kind of thing. Um, yeah, I think Spider-Man 2 is just a really easy watch. I think it's just a really fun, easy watch. And I think because it moves so quickly, I think it's probably the easiest one to get a genuine watch out of, in terms of the three movies. Just a lot of memorable scenes, especially the action sequences in this movie. I mean, people will be talking about the train scene for eternity. I mean, I think the saving Aunt May from the building scuffle from Doc Ock and the bank, the finale, the unmasking of Peter from Harry. That had a lot. Had a lot of promise back when it was just Spider-Man 2. Just a lot of really iconic moments in this movie.
The one I always remember, I don't know why this one stands out to me. When he's talking to, he's at a fancy restaurant with Mary Jane, and all of a sudden in the background behind her, you see a car flinging towards the window,
Yeah.
and he saves her or whatever. I don't know why that particular scene has always stood out to me the most out of the whole movie.
And that was actually replaying through my mind when I was referencing scenes. I just didn't say it out loud. So no, it definitely is a really well shot scene. I imagine all the camera work and effects that actually went into that because it's so like dimensional. Like they actually blew up a lot of shit that shot because I feel like I watched special features a long time ago. Yeah, no, it's a really crisp looking movie too.
Do you remember there's an awkward scene in the movie, it's played for laughs, it's supposed to be, where she's got a new boyfriend. She's dating Jameson's son. And
Yeah, astronaut boy.
yeah, that's kind of weird, but whatever. And like he kisses her, and then she's like, she's not really into it. So then she like has him lay on the couch, and she comes up and like kisses him like she kissed Spider-Man. So like their heads are like opposite.
Oh yeah.
It's such a strange visual joke in the movie. I think about that all the time. I just think about like being that astronaut dude and being like, you know, that's a red flag.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that my brother and I made jokes about every time we rewatched it because it's like, this is kind of weird. The upside down kiss, in my opinion, is always weird. I thought it was a weird moment when I was a kid. As an adult, I still think it's kind of gross and weird. So,
Well, I mean, have you
really,
done
my
that?
opinion on that has never changed.
Have you ever tried it?
I have not. I might. I might try it later after this episode, and I'll report back next time.
I
But
imagine it'd be horrible because put yourself in Spider-Man's shoes. Because like he's Spider-Man, but I'd imagine he would still like all the blood would still be going to his head.
yes. So here's my other question, because the scene surrounding it is already rapey, right? So Spider-Man beats up all of these dudes that foreseeably want to have their way with Mary Jane, right? Okay, so
Hmm.
that's good. Good hero stuff. He saves her from
Wait,
from
wait,
that.
wait. To make sure you're talking about Spider-Man being the hero, not these guys that want to have their way with Mary Jane, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
just making sure.
No, but you're getting to my point here. So he saves her from all these rapey dudes, right? Okay, but then he like jumps away, whatever. Then she's like frolicking around in the alley, all wet and moist like she is, and then she's like, "Oh my god, where did he go?" Then he comes back down with his mask on. Why he had his mask off, I don't remember. He must have got it pulled off of him in the fight. Whatever, bullshit. Um, then he comes back down with the mask, and like she definitely initiates it, but the whole "I saved your life, and to you I'm a stranger. Now I'll put you in perfect opportunity to maybe kiss me," and then that's what happens, and it just still feels a little rapey to me. So it's just kind of weird.
It's a gray. He's putting the pressure on her for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like she's consenting, but it's like it's kind of like, oh yeah, I saved you. You're the girl of my dreams, so I'm gonna put myself in position to have you lick my Toby Maguire lips, and every time I'm just kind of like, I'm just weirded out by this scene. That'll never not happen.
Yeah, like, because really the implication is that he's like, I mean, you could not kiss me, but you'd kind of be an asshole.
Yeah, that'd be like if Mario saved Princess Peach. Like, come on, just a kiss on the nose. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, really, don't you owe me that much?
Yeah, it's exactly that kind of feeling. You know, if Spider-Man truly is this like altruistic, selfless hero, it just kind of feels weird.
It reminds me of you've seen Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Have not.
There's a terrible joke in it where one of the nerds disguises himself at a costume party as one of the jocks, and then with the costume on, sleeps with the jock's girlfriend. So she thinks she's sleeping with her boyfriend, and it's like she's loving it. And then at the end, she's like, "Oh, it was so good." And take that mask off. She takes off and it's the nerd. And she's like, "Oh my God, it was you? How are you so good?" And he says, "All jocks think about are sports, but all nerds think about is sex."
That's a horrible fucking joke.
It really
Oh my,
is. And it's like funny because it's so dated. But
oh
that's how
my
Parker
god.
thinks.
This is the stupidest line. Oh my god. Well, I don't know how to top that, man. My train of thought is just destroyed. This is what happens. I get too giggly. I talk or think about these Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I don't own them in our new place. My brother has our original copies. I need to go buy these movies again, dude.
You definitely do. I actually just got the first and third for Christmas this year.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it was Mary Jane Christmas.
You already had two, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I own all three, but not up here where I'm currently living. So now I have all three on DVD.
God, all is right with the world.
Can we discuss real quick the atrocious DVD covers they did for these films when Amazing Spider-Man came out?
Ooh, I don't think I need to check what they look like.
Oh my God. So like I like physical media. It's really kind of
Yeah, me
a
too.
clutter issue for me, to be honest. But like so they re-release these movies when Amazing Spider-Man comes out, and there's a theory that people didn't want a reboot. So they re-release the movies with shitty covers to make people think like, oh, those movies are dated. Those were kind of corny because you see these horrible, ugly covers, and it's just like I think the first one's Spider-Man or maybe it's Green Goblin, and it's just like his face. in like an awkward Photoshop like crop, and there's just a blue background, like legitimately just like a blue screen, essentially.
I have not seen this. I'm trying to search for it now because all I can find is the original covers.
And see, now I got to go look. It really bothers me because I really value the art of the cover art.
Me too. This is the first time hearing of this.
Yeah,
These are the rabbit holes that we go down. Oh God, I think I just found the Spider-Man 3 one. It's literally
yeah, I'm
like
looking
Spider-Man over a
now,
blue screen.
and I'm gonna send one to you if I can find them. Oh, here we go. I
Oh
found a
shit!
Blu-ray for Spider-Man 2.
Oh, I found 3 and 2's cover. I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah, yeah, the Spider-Man 2, it has it has Spidey, and he's like doing the web sling towards the camera or towards you, and then it's got Doc
Yeah,
Ock just kind of like, I didn't even know, he's just kind of like looking at Spider-Man's ass, I guess.
very weird. But like, I, were they advertising that they were on Blu-ray with the blue background? I guess.
Maybe I never thought about that. It's one of those
Oh
things.
yeah,
If that
God,
is
they're
the
gross.
case, that makes it so much stupider.
Yeah, the Spider-Man 1 cover is the worst because it's literally just half a Spider-Man's face, half a Green Goblin's face, just looking right at you.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I forgot.
No,
What are
those
they
are gross.
thinking?
Yeah, I've never seen those until now.
Yeah, it's so
What?
bad.
I don't like that.
No, it actually makes me like the movies less, so they did their job. Because if those movies didn't exist, those horrible covers wouldn't either. So it kind of makes me wish these movies were never made.
I don't know what my life would be without these movies, dude.
Oh, me either. It is funny how it was kind of like life changing, like in terms of like humor, um, and just
I mean,
filmmaking. I mean, such good blockbuster filmmaking. That's what I love about these movies.
y-
Like, it's corny, and we don't. I don't think we contextualize it as much with our age, but like, it was a big deal with like New York, 9/11. There's an original poster with the Twin Towers and the reflection of Spider-Man's eyes.
yeah, no, it was definitely a influential time since we grew up with them. And another thing I forgot to mention is that Spider-Man 1, basically the trilogy, because I didn't get into Marvel a whole lot in the decade um, they came out in, but it was mostly a Batman and Superman before I saw Spider-Man 1. I saw like some of the cartoons and some of the old Batman and Superman movies. But Spider-Man was the first thing that I ever consumed that was Marvel at all.
I think same for me, because I had some VHS tapes when I was younger. I had a Superman one, and I don't know if I had anything Batman really when I was younger. I didn't know anything about him. I knew that in the Tim Burton movie, Michael Keaton says, "I'm Batman. Tell all your friends." And my stepmom would always impersonate that and make me laugh. But that's really all I knew about Batman for a very long
Yeah.
time.
Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
My favorite thing in that movie, because this is already such an irreverent episode, is when Batman catches a man on fire and then smiles about it.
Yeah, dude, that is not the same Batman as we have today. It's really funny to go back and rewatch.
Murder brings him joy.
Yeah, I can't cross that line. I just watched one of the animated Batman movies, Under the Red Hood, my birthday, since it's one of my favorites. And Batman has this amazing monologue at the end where he's like, "Cross that line. It's a dark path that I'll never stop going down." And the line's better written than that. So then I think about moments like that, and then I think about him setting a dude on fire in the 1989 movie and just smiling. And I'm like, it's technically the same character, just different adaptations.
Yeah. Well, that's actually kind of a relevant point. I'm glad you brought the Red Hood thing up because this film is such a great milestone for superhero cinema. Because I would say it really started, like, you could say the Adam West Batman movie, which I actually really enjoy. It's a fun movie. Was one of the first big ones. Then you got Superman the movie, which was like, I'd say the first bona fide huge superhero blockbuster.
Absolutely.
And And those were great movies, the first two anyhow. Speaking of series in which the first two movies are the only good ones. Then you got
Yeah.
Batman, and that kind of took it in a different direction, darker and all that, more stylized.
Mm.
Then after that, I would say that I could think of, really, in terms of the
I mean,
mainstream ones. I'm sorry, what?
yeah, no, I pretty much agree that the '90s were kind of a shoot. Honestly, it's kind of like we wasted our time for a decade in the '90s. We didn't have any big milestones like Superman or Batman. But yeah, then the early 2000s hit it off. Were Spider-Man and X-Men like in the same year? Because they were kind of cut from a similar cloth.
I think they were both 2001.
Yeah, just those early 2000s movies. They're all kind of cut from the same cloth, but Spider-Man is definitely the one that holds up the best of those. And when it was released, I would say Spider-Man 1, my opinion, was the best superhero movie. So, in 2002, Spider-Man was the best superhero movie that we had. Obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of competition, but I would say it was definitely, at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's definitely a strong argument. I would say that or Superman the movie. But it's so
Yeah,
tough because legacy.
absolutely. Yeah. No, Spider-Man definitely owned superhero market, in my opinion, until really Batman Begins and The Dark Knight came out.
Definitely, yeah. And I think without or without Spider-Man, we wouldn't have gotten Batman Begins.
I totally agreed. Yeah, if the Spider-Man movies, their first couple were a flop, especially if the first one was a flop, I don't know if we would have revisited Batman at all. So I think we really do owe a lot to these movies. They're definitely got their imperfections, but it's kind of the cheesy saying that flaws make them more beautiful.
That's exactly what it is. I think Oscar Wilde said only something ugly could truly be beautiful.
There you go. That's a beautiful thing.
It's very Oscar Wilde.
It is very an Oscar Wilde thing to say.
And as an ugly person myself, it gives me a great deal of confidence. So,
It gives me hope for the future of cinema. We see a lot of ugliness in this day and age, and
well,
truly
looking
means that we're all beautiful deep down.
looking at the we'll say the future, quote unquote, but it's really the past now of Spider-Man after, without getting too in depth with those films, just an overview. What fascinates me is after the Spider-Man 3 feud, they were going to do a fourth one, and that fell through. And it seems to me like they never found out what to do with the character. Even now, the character's still up in the air between MCU, the Disney, and the Sony corporations.
Yeah, the ownership of Spider-Man is crazy. In my opinion, we've gotten a couple good Spider-Man movies since then. The legal battle of the character has been crazy for a long time. As for no debate, it's just weird.
Yeah, and I think for that reason, it felt to me, Spider-Man 1 especially, it felt like the only time where they truly knew what they wanted to do with the character and had a vision.
Yeah, I can see that. It's kind of like a closed book, Spider-Man One, and then you get into sequels and remakes and retreads, and that's why I liked Into the Spider-Verse so much because it kind of acknowledged that phenomena and put the spotlight on a different main character while still keeping with the identity and bounciness of Spider-Man, and kind of just use that to its asset. What they did at Sony Animation with Into the Spider-Verse is like kind of bizarrely incredible. But again, Peter Parker's not the main character, and I feel like that was part of the reason why the movie is such a success.
Yeah, I always feel like Into the Spider-Verse is just kind of a miracle because on paper, nothing about it should work.
Yeah, I know. And then I was just remember watching that in the theater a couple of years ago, and then like everything was working for me. Like it was hilarious, it was dramatic, the animation was beautiful beyond like compare, and I was just like, oh my god, I think I'm watching like one of the best animated movies of the decade. Oh, how did this happen?
Yeah, I remember I went and saw it. There's all the hype and the trailers. I was like, maybe it'll be good. Who knows? I'll be open-minded, but I wasn't hyped. And I heard the hype, I heard the reviews, And honestly, I was like, this is overblown. This is just like, a media hype machine, all that. It's manufactured, fanboys. But it might be good still. And then
Yeah.
weeks after it came out, like the last week it was in theaters just about, I went and saw it with Maureen actually. And I remember we were in theaters and it started and it was like, as soon as like the opening credits started, it was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And then by the time I got to like you said like the emo Parker, the cutaway gag with that, and then it got into Miles' life, I was like, this is incredible. This is such a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, I mean, instantly that movie just oozes with confidence in what it's doing, in just like every single way that they have a new lead character and that they are celebrating the cultural significance of the past films, like all of that stuff. Just- It hit right. It hit right. Whereas a lot of fan service in a lot of movies just feels kind of forced, but it's the whole like point in a way. You know,
Yeah, and
it's
that one
just
too. Oh, sorry.
crazy.
That one too is a
It's just
celebration of the series, allowing Miles to be the protagonist. And I don't like Miles in the comics person. I think he's a very flat character typically, and I think he's great in Spider-Verse. And I think it's funny because essentially what they do is I always say it's basically a Goofy movie, and how they treat Max in a Goofy movie. That's kind of how that's I just forgot his name.
yeah.
That's kind of how Miles is in this, and he's immediately relatable and likable, but allowing him to be the narrative focus allows you to always it aggrandizes Spider-Man through the whole film. So with him being a supporting character, the supporting cast really with all of the different versions, you're always in awe of the character. He's always like towering above you from this worm's eye view.
No, they do that very, very well. And I think, you could only pull that off with like Spider-Man because there's only a couple superhero characters that have so much pop culture relativity, but also is a light enough character, that they could do that kind of thing. I don't know what a Batman into the Batverse would look like, but I probably wouldn't hit quite right. So it's just like you said, it's a miracle. It's like all the right things come there for this kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean, I could like break it down piece by piece. Like, here's why Spider Pig works. Here's why this character dynamic works. Here's why this subplot works in the movie. But like, if you told me to reconstruct it, even having already seen the movie, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Absolutely. Yeah, honestly, they'll probably have to be a future podcast topic too, because I know that they're making a sequel. Not sure exactly when it'll come out, but going through this movie very in depth would definitely be a really good future topic.
It'd be fun. I already did a review on it on the Long Shot page, but it was a quickie. And I don't know. I mean, with the sequel for that, honestly, I'm just not quite interested. I mean, I'm hopeful, but I liked the first movie being a one-off. I liked that. I don't need more story. I hope it's good. I'll go see it out of loyalty.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like I don't know exactly where they're going with a whole nother narrative per se. But when there's so many doubters, the first one came out, it's like, well, who am I to doubt anymore when they've proven, the standard of quality?
Exactly. I mean, if it's half as good as the first one, it's still going to be a great movie.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts on the Sam Raimi trilogy?
I really don't think so. I mean, there's almost it's funny because it's so hard to discuss because it's so jam packed.
Yeah, no, they are very pretty well paced movies. I mean, the third one gets a little long in the tooth for sure, but each movie has dozens of moments that I can just recall, off the top of my head, kind of a thing, which is bizarre. You can't do that for most movies.
Yeah, it's they're those kind of movies where it's like if you were the first person out of all your friends back in the day to hear Abbey Road, and they're like, "Oh, you heard the new Beatles album? What is it like?" And you're like, there's a song about a kid with a hammer, and there's like 10 tracks at the end, and they're all the same song. And at the beginning, it's like this slow stoner jam. It's like there's just so much. Where do you even begin, and where do you even end?
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's just a weird time. And I don't know if we'll ever get movies that are quite like that. You know, there's so many movies in the superhero genre now that there's kind of just this samey feeling, even when they are unique, you know, some more than others. Like, I don't know. They don't really capture a wholly unique directorial vision or tone because they're always preoccupied with, like, you know, being in the same universe or the same timeline or whatever. So these movies really exist outside of all that too, which is another reason why they're so easy to go back to for us superhero fans.
Yeah, I mean, one movie that could be that way will be Doctor Strange 2, which apparently Sam Raimi's now directing.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how he does with a movie that is technically in universe to all of the Marvel stuff these days. I'm definitely very intrigued by how that's going to pan out.
Sam, I have to say, like, when it was announced and people were saying stuff like, "Oh, it's gonna be more of a horror movie or it's gonna be Lovecraftian or whatever," I was like, yeah, whatever. I doubt it. Just like Ant-Man's a heist movie, probably. And nothing against Doctor Strange. I like Benedict Cumberbatch in The Rule. I haven't even seen the first movie because I don't care. But I was just thinking, like, there's no way to get me interested in that movie. And then I saw that headline, I was like, Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2. I was like, okay, there's one way to get me into this movie.
Yeah, it is truly up in the air with whatever the hell they're going to do in that movie.
Yeah, it's nuts, but whenever it happens, we'll have to do an episode on it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think that sounds like we're sounding off for this week. So this has been Eric Zavinski.
And I'm Todd Crawford.
We are too cool for the comic shop. See you guys next time.